been a lot going on in schools and in life in general. It's always the case in life, but especially in this moment of still dealing with COVID. But more importantly, the Oxford shooting and the ripple effect it's had on schools across the country, but mainly in Michigan and specifically in Wayne County and Detroit. A lot of social media threats against particular schools. We've investigated all of them and identified, unfortunately, the person behind, but it has created a lot of anxiety and concern. I just announced this morning that tomorrow we won't have online learning or in-person learning. We were slated to have an online learning day tomorrow. I decided to cancel school tomorrow, mainly because last Friday our attendance dropped below 75%. And we have to be at 75% to be fully funded for the day. And knowing that it's the day before break and our attendance would probably be lower than it was last Friday, right. And just knowing where people's headspace is right now in social emotional space with the threats and COVID, I just thought it was best to cancel the last day to start the break a little bit earlier, to give a little bit more time to be with family, friends, breathe, and then come back January 3rd at all schools in person, more excited about learning and just getting back at it, but with a well-needed rest. The other concern was laptop returning. So it's very hard to purchase laptops. We have the money, but they're not coming in because of demand. And we were worried that with a longer break and those laptops being home on Friday, they may not make it back. And if they don't come back, then we can't run our regular educational programs during the day, and we can't do this state required testing at the end of the year. The board and I are working and really putting the final touches on a employee vaccination requirement. And so that would be effective today, depending on our final discussion today at the board retreat. And then employees would have until February 18th to be fully vaccinated, unless they had a religious or a medical exemption. Well over 80% of our employees are already vaccinated. But we do know that vaccination is a tool that we have to get to the other side of the pandemic, but more importantly, keep yourself safe as a student, family member, community member, keep others safe. But for us in the K-12 space, it's the best way to ensure that students can learn Monday through Friday without interruption. We've had now almost 11,000 students quarantined this year because of COVID. That's well over 10% of the students in the school system. And so you can imagine the disruption to learning, to teaching, the burden it's placing on families when students are home and not at school. And so just excited to have students back in person, with the exception of about 2,000 that are virtual. But the only way to really make up the learning loss that we saw, to give the students the education that they deserve, they have to be in school. And COVID is playing a role in that. We've had quite a few of our employees that are unvaccinated become positive. That's leading to other employees and students being vaccinated. So we're starting with our employees first. And then after the holidays, we're going to expand the conversation with a possible student mandate of the vaccine in the fall of 2022. So we would give families time to think about it, to do more research. But it is something that we're considering for the fall, the beginning of next school year in DPSCD, to require the vaccine, because we just have to stop disrupting learning and teaching. And we have to keep people safe. And in Detroit, we will always keep COVID as a serious virus. Other communities either are more highly vaccinated or they're simply ignoring COVID. They're not testing, they're not wearing a mask. And that's not something that we can do here. It's just not. Our families have seen too much death, sickness, disruption in their lives to ignore COVID. So that's why we're wearing the mask. That's why we're the only school district in Michigan to test. We're testing all employees and all students. It's leading to the identification of cases, which is disruptive, but still transparent about where COVID is, and it stops the spread.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.